I ran my last one shot last week, and it was a D&D one shot that I wrote, and it went quite well to my surprise, because I was scared that I would be utterly unprepared because I don't know all the rules. Like, I've played D&D for a long time now. A year is a long time, I think. And I've been, I'm not gonna say I read all of the rules of the book. I didn't. I know I should, but I didn't yet, you know. But I ran a D&D one shot last week, and it went pretty well. And I think one of the things that kind of inspired me to even want to talk about it on the internet is that I felt like this experience was so much easier for me than trying to run one shots with rules light systems. And I think, my biggest issue comparing all the little things that I've done trying to GM, I have not DM'd a lot of games, but a big issue that I've had throughout was pacing. And this last time, I felt like I was able to pace it a lot better, which I think is more of a, experience thing. Even though I haven't played a lot, I feel like I came in prepared to move things along in a way that before I wasn't specifically doing, and I felt very lost. I think I prepared enough. Maybe having written my own thing was really helpful. A lot of advice on rules light systems is like, just go with it, which sure, that is, play to see what happens, absolutely. But I feel like it's kind of sets you up to think that anyone can just do that, and I certainly cannot. I feel like not only pacing was hard, but just knowing what to do next was hard. I felt very unprepared. And with this one shot for D&D, I felt like I had to prepare more because it's D&D. And he has all these rules and all these things. And even though I made mistakes with the rules, ultimately it was not the end of the world. And I feel like because even though I have not prepared to an exhausting extent, like, it was fine, but it wasn't like an absurd amount of things that I've prepared. I had just enough to sort of have some NPCs, to have, some challenges for the characters, and throw in a final combat with a somewhat satisfying ending for a one shot. And, people were happy. They liked their characters a lot, and they seemed to have had fun, which is all that I wanted. I feel like very often my problem is like, I feel like I'm losing my players. I feel like it's getting boring and tiring. And we played for, I believe, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, around 4 hours, a normal amount for a one shot or session. And it didn't feel super tiring to me, and I think even for my players it wasn't super tired, as they seem to have had fun by the end of it. So I think with the pacing I did a lot better, and I think a reason for that is that I had a lot more prepared, because I went in with the mindset of, this is D&D, this is a game that needs preparation. And I feel like what I learned from this experience is that I probably needed, and this is not some crazy amount of preparation, but what I realized is I probably needed a similar amount of preparation for Ruse Lights and I feel maybe even more preparation for those roulette systems. I think for a lot of people, it's easy and intuitive, and maybe that is because they have been DMing for way longer than I did. Right, I'm very new at this. I've been playing for a year, but I've DM'd very sparsely and very few times. So I think that trying to go for rules-like systems, and you think, well, it's little rules, so it's gonna be easy because I don't have to read the whole 300-page book. But at the end of the day, I feel like it also doesn't offer you a lot of, in the sense of like, what is in this world to play with, what is the game really, right? And sometimes it's really hard to know, especially if your players are not necessarily super intuitive about these things either, and are not the most role-playing focused people, which now I realize not a great idea, to bring a rules-like system to people that are more into mechanics and more into like actual games. Like these friends that I play with, they love stuff like FPS games and like they like video games. I don't care for video games, so for me, I think as a player, I can do well and easy with a result system because I can just focus on like playing a character. And when it comes to rules, it's much more difficult for me, right? So I think it's also part of it, just understanding that maybe your players are more into mechanics than you are. But in any case, I think what I got from all of it is pacing will really screw you over. And once you kind of nail how to move things along, and I think that comes naturally and with time, at least for me, because this is the first one shot where I felt like, oh, finally I nailed maybe not nailed, but like this is way better. Like I finished the one shot. Finally, I finished one before, but it wasn't very good in my opinion. Like this is the one that I am satisfied with the ending, and I felt prepared even when players threw curveballs at me because I just sort of ran with it and I knew where to pull from. And I think a big reason that I knew where to pull from is that D&D has a lot to pull from. Like I could quickly go online and be like, fucking give me a stat for monster now. Like I could easily search stuff up on the book and just online, just Google stuff quickly, right? And it gave me answers and it gave me reactions quickly. That, even though I had stats prepared, there was a moment where I had to pull a new one because something happened and I was like, I need to push people to a certain direction, so I'm gonna throw another enemy here. And it worked, but I had to pull something from Google, a monster, and it was easy. And sometimes I feel like with rules-like systems, sometimes it's hard to know, like, where do I pull from? You only have yourself, and that is kind of overwhelming. I guess for some people that sort of improvisation is easy, but I felt very often like I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Like there were moments playing these rule-light systems where the characters would spend a lot of time somewhere and I didn't know what to do, how to get them out of here. And sometimes a more complex system gives you more options, but also pacing. I think that this is a matter of experience, and when you realize, oh, this time around I got it, like I feel like if I ran Lady Blackbird again, which was the first one shot I tried to run and didn't really go too well, we didn't even finish it, I feel like if I tried it again I would do a lot better, because I feel like now I have a better sense of how to manage players so that we don't get stuck, right? And I feel like even it being a sort of roguelike thing, it offers you enough in the vein of like, here's what you do. Like, you get out of this place and you find a thing, and then you see a monster, and then you fight a guy, like, it has little plot points. So I feel like if I tried it again, I would be able to move it along, which I couldn't do in the first time. So anyway, this is my first GM log, and I hope to run more D&D one-shots, maybe with even the same characters, and be able to make, I'm really thinking about making another one-shot, or maybe even a small campaign, where the story focus more on the characters themselves, because my players seem to have really liked the characters that they made for this one shot. So I'm thinking about that a lot. And also I'm thinking about maybe going back to rules-like systems with a different mindset. With the mindset that actually you have to prepare a lot more for these systems. And because they really fascinate me, I really like indie systems that rely more on world building and character connections, and less on like specifics about class and stuff like that, mechanics, right? So I want to go back to them with a mindset of preparation is needed, but also it doesn't have to be overwhelming, especially if you know how to pace yourself, which I think is the biggest lesson for me, is pacing. And I really want to keep working on that to become a better DM.